This is the new Honda Accord, and yes, they did bring it to Australia, even though cars aren't selling in big numbers anymore. But if you are looking for a car, not an SUV, this could be a really good choice for you. I'm going to tell you all about it in this review, some things that are great about it, some things that maybe could be better. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe, and let's get to it. The Honda Accord has been around for 11 generations now. We're talking almost 50 years of sales in Australia. So there's no surprise that the brand was keen to bring this one back in for a maybe final go at our market. We'll have to wait and see. But hey, it's getting expensive. We're not talking Honda Legend pricing, not yet, but $64,900 drive away is the price for this single spec model. It's the HEV RS. You might have heard that terminology before if you're aware of what other Hondas there are on sale in Australia. That's the hybrid version, and yep, it's only available with a petrol electric hybrid, and it's only available in RS spec, which is the sportiest looking and sportiest driving of the lot. And look, I think that it does come very well equipped for that money. Maybe not mind-blowingly well equipped, but you do get some really good stuff. You get 18-inch alloy wheels, LED lighting all around the car. You've also got a panoramic sunroof as well. And on the inside, plenty of tech. You get a 12.3-inch touchscreen media system with Google built in, and it's also got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto wirelessly as well. Plus, you've also got some really good tech when it comes to connected services, so you can actually get over-the-air updates for this car. That's great. Plus a digital instrument cluster and a head-up display. You've got sunblinds in the back windows. There's also a keyless entry and push-button start and a 12-speaker Bose stereo system. So there's plenty to like about this cabin, but for the price, might be asking just a little bit much. But hey, I've got some great alternatives that might actually fit your budget better. Let's talk about them. Okay, when it comes to alternatives to this, the obvious one is the Toyota Camry. The current generation model is at the end of its life cycle. There'll be a new generation model coming very soon. And if you are after a hybrid sedan that offers comfort, practicality, and plenty of space, it could be a very, very good alternative to this. The Camry has a reputation that is unmatched in this market, and for good reason. It's very, very good to drive. But hey, if you're looking at a high-end Camry, it's about the same kind of price on the road for this kind of car. So hey, if budget isn't everything, it's not the end of the world for you. But hey, if budget is, well, a little bit more lenient, then you might want to check out the Lexus ES. Now, the ES 300H, which is the petrol electric hybrid version of that luxury sedan, starts at around 65 grand before on-road costs. Like, that is a fair bit more. You're looking at about 70 on the road, but it's a Lexus, and you're getting the Lexus ownership experience that comes with that, and it's a very, very nice car to drive as well. And hey, if you're thinking petrol electric, is it too far of a stretch to go to fully electric and maybe go and check out the Tesla Model 3? And look, it's maybe a little bit more anonymous than some other cars out there, and there are plenty of them on the road, but it's a very, very nice electric vehicle. You can check out my detailed review by hitting the link in the description or at the top of the screen, and I think that you will find that you are getting a lot of car for your money, although it might not necessarily be right for everyone, because there are some things that maybe are a little bit annoying on a day-to-day basis. So would you choose any of those, or would you just go for something brilliant like the Skoda Octavia, or maybe even a Peugeot 508? There are so many choices when you think about it. Everyone just seems to default to SUV, but hey, there's still some really, really good cars out there. Which one would you pick? If you like colourful cars, you're going to be disappointed by the choices in the Honda Accord. You've got white, silver, grey or black, and personally I think the white looks brilliant, but hey, I wouldn't have minded a splash of colour. At least you get a little splash of amber in those indicator edge lenses, which actually aren't the indicators, they're just little lenses to add some sort of flair. But I reckon it looks pretty tidy, this car. It's about 5 meters in length, so it is certainly not a small vehicle. It's got that swoopy roofline look, but hey, I'll show you the backseat space in a sec. You might be surprised. And let's have a look at the boot space. It is quite a nice looking car. No electric tailgate at this kind of money is a little bit disappointing, and you can see the boot space figure on your screen now. It's a deep boot. There's a lot of space in there, a lot of width to the boot space as well, so you should be able to fit golf bags and that sort of thing in there. You've got a couple of shopping bag hooks on the edges there. and remote releases for those back seats if you need to lower things down. But as you can see, the shape of that means that the IKEA run might still be a bit of a pain. Now, let's have a look under the boot floor, and you're not going to find a spare in there, which is a bit disappointing. It's just a tyre repair kit, and that is maybe an issue for some buyers, but tell me what you reckon about it in the comments. If you've sat in or looked at any other Honda model in recent times, it's going to feel pretty familiar to you because there are some carryover design elements to this cabin. The mesh finish across the dashboard, these very likable vent adjustments, and yes, I get a little bit excited about vents and controls, but some elements of the cabin haven't been carried over from the other models like CR-V, HR-V and Civic. You don't get those beautiful twirly dials for your climate control. Instead, you've got triggers for the actual adjustment of the temperature, but the fan adjustment is done on the screen, and I don't like that. But also there's this central controller here which you can customize to basically be rapid cooling or colder on automatic or warmer on automatic, whatever it may be. I just think that it's maybe a little bit complicated, and the other way of doing things in the other Hondas is actually better. But the thing is that you're getting this 12.3-inch touchscreen media system, which is bigger than the other Hondas, and that means that some of those controls are done on the screen, and otherwise you've got the existing, I guess, real estate to be used for your infotainment duties. You've got digital radio, you've got your usual things like Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, as I've mentioned. There's Google Maps built in as well, and you've also got some things like a power flow monitor, so you can see where the power unit is sending power and which bits are working and when, and also your driving range and your trip computer details can be there. But there's also a digital instrument cluster for the driver with similar sort of info there, so you can put a trip computer up there if you want to. There's a few different modes that you can play with on that screen, plus you've got a head-up display too. So the technology aspect in the Accord really does step up a little bit, but look, I have to say it, there's some elements that maybe don't feel as plush as they could or as pricey as this price suggests they should. Some of the graphics just look like they've been put onto older screens, like they're a bit pixelated and stuff. Like up here you might notice that the font doesn't look quite crisp, and on here same sort of thing, and down here this little dial, I think that looks a bit silly, to be honest. Down here between the seats you've got your drive mode selector, and you've also got your EV mode. So that's the button you press if you want to prioritize EV driving. And yes, there are individual settings for the powertrain if you want to adjust things in the individual drive mode. You've also got steering, adaptive cruise control, and your gauge cluster as well. But there are no adjustments to the suspension system because it doesn't have adaptive suspension. Is that a problem? I'll tell you about that in the driving section. When it comes to other elements of the cabin, yep, you've got a nice ambient lighting finish around the front part of the cabin. You can see that you can configure it as well. Blue at the moment. If you adjust the temperature on the doors, you'll notice that it goes between red and blue if you're going hot or cold. And when you open your door, it'll turn orange to warn anyone who's coming from behind, or maybe even to keep you warned of your surroundings as well. Other things in the cabin that I really like are the layout of it. I think it's a really nicely designed cabin. You've got a couple of big cup holders here, wireless phone charger in there, a couple of USB-C ports. You've got bottle holders in the doors and a decent sized center console bin. It's very comfortable. The seats are super comfy. You do sit pretty low in this car though, so if you are maybe having mobility issues, it might not be the ideal car for you. But I think that for the most part, it's very, very nice up front. Got the big panoramic sunroof as well, a sunglasses holder if that's what you're into. And one thing I really love, these visors, well, you can have them just as normal visors, you can put them to the side, you can slide them as well, which means if you're trying to get that bit of sun out of the edge of your eye and you're driving at sunset or sunrise, you can do that, and it's very, very nice. All right, let's see if the back seat space is nice, shall we? Okay, believe it or not, this seat is set for my driving position. I'm 182 centimeters or 6 foot. Look at that. I've got so much space, lots of foot room, lots of leg room. The big issue is headroom here because of that swoopy roofline. you do sort of find that anyone who's my height or taller will struggle for headroom. But look, if you've got shorter occupants, it might be perfectly fine. And if you've got kids, it should be really good too. There's ISOFIX points in the window seats and 3 top tether points as well. So in theory, you could fit 3 kid seats across the back here, and I think it would be a pretty comfortable existence for them too, because you've got USB-C ports down here, a couple of directional air vents, there's bottle holders in the doors, and yes, you do get that ambient lighting in the back as well. Little reading lights up here, which are touch sensitive. I love those. And you've also got a flip down armrest, right, with a pair of cup holders, and also a little through port for this seat section, so you could store skis through there if you wanted to, or maybe something longer from Bunnings or something like that. And as well as all this amenity, you've also got these sun blinds on the windows, which I think are absolutely brilliant. If you've got youngsters in the back, or even grown-ups, they'll appreciate it because, well, it blocks out a bit of the sharpness from the sunlight outside. I think that they're really nice. They're just maybe a little bit finicky, but hey, this is a nice backseat experience, don't you think? All versions of this Honda Accord range are hybrid. So you've got a 2-litre Atkinson cycle petrol engine, non-turbocharged, pretty modest outputs. It combines with a pair of electric motors, one as a generator, the other one to help send power to the front wheels. So it's front wheel drive only. There's a CVT automatic transmission, and you've also got a lithium ion battery pack in the mix. Now you can drive it in petrol mode, where it will just use the petrol engine, or you can use a combination of petrol and electric, or you can run it fully EV. There's even a button on the inside to run in EV mode. And well, there's a few different drive modes to talk about actually, so let's go for a drive and see what it's like. All right, so what's it like to drive? Well, I'm outside Melbourne testing this vehicle out for this review, so it's not my normal driving impressions, but I've managed to mix in what you might do when you're driving your Accord, highway, freeway, and urban driving, and for the most part, it's a pretty nice drive experience. There are some elements that maybe I would like changed just a bit. To me, maybe the ride could be just a little bit softer. It does have a bit of a sharp edge over bumpy sections at times. It's not to the point where you go, I'd rule it out, but it might not necessarily be quite as luxurious a ride as you get in some of the rivals out there, or even as cushy a ride as you get in a Camry, for instance. But for the most part, for the other driving impressions that I've got, it's really, really good. Now, just in normal drive mode, I like the way that everything behaves. I like the powertrain. It's not necessarily the zestiest hybrid powertrain, but it's a really nice balance between that, well, powerful enough element, but also offering pretty decent fuel consumption. I'm going to tell you about that in a sec. Now, the usability of the drivetrain is really good too. So it can be driven as an EV if you want to. Hit the button down there, and provided that you're not driving too audaciously, it will be in EV driving mode. Now, otherwise, if you just leave it to its own devices, it's pretty clever in the way that it behaves and the way that it manages the power. So jumping between petrol and electric and fully electric, it'll do what it thinks is right at that moment, and it mostly does the right thing. So that's great to see. The other thing I like about it is this CVT automatic transmission. Well, it has mimicked shifts, so it feels like you've got a standard auto shifting up gears as you accelerate, so you don't get any of that droning sound that we all typically associate with CVT automatics. And I think that for the most part, the powertrain element of this car is really well judged. I don't think it's underpowered, even though the numbers don't suggest that it's the most powerful hybrid you could get. I think that it is a really nice drive experience. And hey, if you want to, you can put it into sport mode, and that makes things a little bit jazzier. Yep, it gets along a lot quicker when you do. It'll use the petrol engine a bit more in order to make the most of the powertrain there. And also you get heavier steering too, but it won't change the suspension. So don't go thinking that it'll make the suspension firmer or anything like that. It just plays with the steering and the powertrain. And for the most part, like, I'm finding not much wrong apart from maybe that slightly firmer ride than you might appreciate, but I don't think it's a deal breaker, as I said. And also there's just a bit of road noise intrusion in the cabin. It's a pretty silent car for the most part, although, yeah, like I said, you do get a little bit of intrusion from the road surface if it's coarse, and at times you might also hear the engine kick into life, especially when you're sitting still, or, you know, it just kicks into idle if you're sitting in the car and the air conditioning's running or something like that. So I've driven it across a mix of different scenarios. I've done speed humps, roundabouts, and urban driving, plus a mix of freeway and highway and open road. And I have to say, it's pretty impressive indeed. So what about fuel consumption? On your screen, you'll see the official combined cycle fuel consumption figure for the hybrid Honda Accord, 4.3 litres per 100 Ks. Very, very impressive if you can get it. And if you're wondering what I've achieved over my mix of driving, like I said, not my normal mix, but I've done a bit of urban, a bit of highway, a bit of freeway, a bit of open road and country road as well. Well, you'll see the number on your screen now, and I think that that is a pretty impressive return. Now, you might see even better if you are driving primarily in urban situations, because that's when the battery system will be called on, in theory, a little bit more often. So in stop-start traffic, you'll be using the regenerative braking to help replenish the battery, and you'll also be using the battery pack more. So the stop-start stuff might actually find this to be a more efficient car than I've seen, and hey, I'm still pretty impressed with the efficiency figures. And another thing I want to point out, this car can run on 91 RON regular petrol, so you don't have to fill it up with premium unleaded, which is nice to see. Now, there is no safety rating for the Honda Accord range. It hasn't been tested by ANCAP or Euro NCAP, and I wouldn't expect that it will be, but it does come comprehensively equipped when it comes to technology. You've got autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian, cyclist and motorcyclist detection. There's a lane keeping system with lane centering. There's adaptive cruise control with traffic jam assist up to about 70 k's an hour. So what that means is that it can do the driving for you essentially in those situations. It'll steer to keep you in your lane and accelerate and brake for you as well. There's blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert, and when it comes to parking duties, you've got a surround view camera and front and rear parking sensors as well. It's also got a traffic sign recognition system, and thankfully it doesn't beep every time the traffic sign changes like in some other cars out there. So I like the application of the technology in this car. And when it comes to airbags, there are 8 fitted to this car, so it should be pretty safe if things go wrong. Honda Australia offers a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty for the Accord and all of its models in its range, but sometimes they throw in some promotional warranties, sometimes up to about 8 years. So maybe keep your eye out for that. There's also a 5-year roadside assist plan as standard, and you get your first 5 services capped at $199 per service, which is very affordable. But keep in mind the service intervals, you'll see them on your screen now. They might not suit your lifestyle, just really depends on how many Ks you're going to be doing. But what do you reckon? I think it's pretty good. It's not going to sell in big numbers, and it might be just a little bit too expensive to stand out from the pack when it comes to mainstream alternatives. But let me tell you, this Honda Accord new generation model is really, really good. I enjoy driving it. I think it's a really great size, offers plenty of practicality and space, and the fuel consumption, yep, that's bloody impressive. Tell me what you think about it in the comments section below. Is 65 grand drive away for this car too much? And if so, what price do you think it should be? Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. If you've already liked and subscribed, thank you so much. It helps grow the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.